It's a personal choice for like every business owner, but I try to put myself in the position of the consumer.
The biggest names in e-commerce share tricks of the trade, from tools and software to strategies and growth hacks. Learn from the best and take your business to the next level.
What are the actual tactical things that you're doing to attract people?
Now your host, JD Krause.
Hello and welcome back to eCommerce in the Trenches. This is JD Krause, and today I'm super excited to have on the podcast with me Sheena Brady of Tease Tea, and she actually has another role that I'm gonna tease a little bit about what Sheena does, kind of day in and day out, in addition to being an entrepreneur. So, hey Sheena, how's it going?
I'm great, JD. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Where are you at physically right now?
Yeah, I'm currently at my dining room table in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, sipping a cup of tea.
Nice. And
Yeah.
No doubt it is a tea that you have probably had your hand in blending and making come to life. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's definitely accurate. I'm drinking one of my favorite afternoon pick-me-ups. It's called To the Finish Line, and it's great to just give you that energy and focus that you need to get you throughout the day. It's made with yerba mate, which is a pretty cool plant from South America that actually a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs swear by to help improve their creativity, their focus, and all of that good stuff. So I can't get enough.
That's awesome. Tell me the name of it again, the actual blend, and then tell me the name of the one ingredient.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's To the Finish Line. It's a play on words, so Lime, instead of To the Finish Line, obviously. And it's made with yerba mate, which is a plant from South America, and it contains naturally plant-based caffeine. But what we do is we infuse and blend it with hints of lemon and lime to give it more of some citrus undertones to balance out the earthiness of the plant itself.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, today on our show, I want to talk about the real deal, like the behind the scenes of what's going on in Tease Tea and kind of your journey. So could you quickly just bring us into the background of how you launched your business and when that was, and that'll just kind of kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to starting a business, I actually come from a decade in hospitality. So a service leader at different hotels and restaurants, that sort of thing. And I was a professional wine sommelier as well. And I had the opportunity to open this beautiful hotel in Toronto. I was excited to get my hands on their wine list. And I got pumped the brakes on a little bit. And I was told, no, we don't want you to do the wine list. We have a master wine sommelier who's going to do that. So I felt a bit defeated. And the short of the story is I asked, my boss at the time, well, what would you like me to do? Like, how can I leave my mark on this beautiful hotel? And they said, we want you to create the tea menu. And I laughed because I thought it was a bit condescending at the time because I probably read too much into it. And I thought, well, what is this? As complicated as picking, 3 or 4 blends and calling it a day. The chain of this hotel is actually called Shangri-La Hotels. I don't know if you're familiar with that brand.
I am, yes, vaguely.
Oh, yeah, so they are basically considered like the Four Seasons of Asia. And so what my boss explained to me at that time is that, tea was a very important part of their DNA and their culture, and appreciating tea from around the world, from various cultures and tea ceremonies and that sort of thing. And he said, no, we don't want, 4 or 5 teas. We want the biggest tea program in all of Toronto. And we want you to learn tea ceremonies and train the staff on how to perform tea ceremonies. And at the time, I didn't even drink tea, to be quite honest. When you work in hotels and restaurants, I think you're fueled by lattes and espresso, basically, to get you through those 10 to 15-hour shifts. So I definitely had my challenge in front of me. And I knew that if I was going to, talk the talk, I needed to walk the walk, and I needed to educate myself. And with that, I found the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada and learn that they have a tea sommelier program. And I like to share that because sometimes people don't believe that it's a real thing when I say I'm a tea sommelier. It's like an actual education that's taught at colleges, believe it or not. And so I took this tea sommelier program, and it taught me everything I needed to know about the entire industry of tea, from bush to cup. And, I more so just wanted to impress my boss at the time and really create a great menu. But what ended up happening is I developed this incredible passion for tea totally unexpectedly, because all the reasons I love wine translated to the world of tea. when we talk about wine, you have red grapes and white grapes, and from there tons of different varietals of wine, like your Cabernet and Pinot and all that. And with tea, it's the exact same thing. A lot of people don't realize that it comes from the same plant. And how you get those different types of teas is, the climate, the soil conditions, how it's harvested. It all affects that final product. And so that got me pretty excited, and I decided to start a tea company shortly after. And that's where, interestingly enough, at that time, this company was like a little bit concerned about me having a side hustle while also having a job, because it was very demanding.
Right.
And I basically, I don't want to put anybody down, but in not so many words, I was told to pick one or the other. Mm-hmm. So that's when I had two choices. I could, stay in this very demanding but fulfilling role of hospitality. I thought it was my destiny to own a restaurant. That's what I always thought I was born to do. I just love the service industry so much. Or I could actually take a leap of faith and start this tea company and give it a full chance. So I quit my job, and it was a pretty good job, well-paying job, to be honest, and decided to become an entrepreneur. And I had this, I think the first time you start your business, you just have this crazy naivety of like how, not necessarily how easy it's going to be, but that you can just like figure it out.
Right.
And I thought I could be like this like entrepreneur overnight and make enough money to keep the lights on, that sort of thing at minimum. I didn't expect to make a lot of money at first, but at least enough to keep the lights on and pay the bills. And oh my gosh, JD, I couldn't have been more wrong. I left behind my career, started this tea company, and 3 months in, I was just totally out of money and really no idea what I was doing, and learning everything for the first time. And so that's how Tease Tea started, basically in 2014. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. So what I tease to we're going to be using that word. It's going to jump out at me. My reticular activator is going to be like firing teas throughout this whole conversation. I just know that, which kudos to you on naming your company, because it's such a neat play on words. But
thank you.
What I did refer to at the beginning of the show was that you have a full-time gig in addition to Tease Tea, and you have been our Shopify Merchant Success Manager, and now you are a team lead, and you lead a lot of MSMs. Talk to me about where that fit into you being an entrepreneur and leaving hospitality, because I don't know that story. I've just kind of known you as my MSM and my go-to person, which I love at Shopify, and you've helped us through so many interesting challenges and things, and bring opportunities to us. And then of course we got behind you in the very beginning when you were launching Tease Tea, or what I thought was the beginning, and maybe it wasn't. But talk to me about how Shopify and your role there has, from a timing standpoint. When did you start working at Shopify?
So basically kind of going into how everything ties in with Shopify. So 3 months into being an entrepreneur, I realized, wow, this is way more challenging than I thought. And, I was debt free and investor free, and I didn't have additional funding for the company. And honestly, I didn't even have a validated product yet. So it wasn't even like, I had that opportunity to do that if I wanted to. So basically needed a job. Now I couldn't go back to hospitality as much as I considered it, because again, anybody who's worked in that industry, it's very time consuming, and I knew my business wouldn't get a fair chance if I went back to that industry. And I was kind of at a bit of a breaking point, because I'd realized I'd sort of put all my eggs in one basket being in hospitality, and didn't really have any other transferable skills. Like even my education is in hospitality. But the one thing I did have was a Shopify store. And I built that store myself, and I figured out, how to do that on my own. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I can get a job at Shopify. So I reached out to the company, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but I actually ended up being hired as a guru at first.
Okay.
And so I was basically technical support, right? And that's kind of more of their, entry level position as far as the company is concerned. And it was it was a bit of a pay decrease from my former career, of course. But for me, it just meant the world that, okay, I'm making a little bit of money that's going to help pay the bills. Shopify is just going to help bankroll my business. I'll stick around for like 6 months or a year, and and we'll just, and then I'll move on. And here we are 3 years later, and I've since, grown with the company exponentially and have actually, joined pretty much the founding team of Shopify Plus. So I've gone from guru to merchant success manager to now merchant success manager lead. And the crazy thing about all of that is I've had these tough moments where I thought, well, will my business be sacrificed because I have this full-time job? But I kind of created this beautiful ecosystem where I get to work with entrepreneurs every single day that I wake up. And to me, that's so motivating and it's so rewarding and challenging. And that only helps my business. And as a result, my business just continues an awesome upward trajectory where, in our early days, like I said, maybe we were doing honestly, maybe 100, 200 a week in sales. And I'm proud to share that we're actually on target this year to hit our first $1 million in all-time revenue.
Wow. Congratulations. That is so awesome.
Thank you.
So awesome. Good. Well, let's get into some of the meat with Tease Tea. And I'm sure that your role at Shopify will add value as we go. I want to talk about attracting customers. So what are some of the things that you've done successfully, and what are some of the things that just have flat failed? I know that you launched a pop-up shop at some point in time a few years ago in New York. Talk to me about that. So let's focus in on attracting customers. How do you do that? What's worked and what hasn't worked?
Yeah, I'm so stubborn. And if there's anything I've learned the hard way over the years, it's you've really got to listen to the people around you. You don't know it all, even if you think you've got the best intentions. And, my ego has taken a little bit of a back seat in recent years. And that's a good thing because it's helped my business, trust me. And what I mean by that is early on when I started Tease Tea, keep in mind that, every shopping mall basically has a Teavana or a David's Tea or what have you.
Right.
And so tea is a very, very competitive space, especially if you're not a retailer and you're exclusively online, which I was at the time. So I knew I needed to have a different brand. And what no one was doing was having a brand that was more modern and playful and very feminine. And so I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to work with. Our branding colors are going to be, pink and white, and it's just going to be different from every other tea company. And I'm going to make tea sexy because nobody's making tea sexy.
Nice.
Hence the name Tease and what have you. And our names early on had these slightly provocative names. They're a little more cheeky and playful now versus provocative. And I worked so hard to drive across that branding and messaging to attract customers. But it took me so long to realize that women don't want their tea to be sexy. They don't care about that. And in fact, it wasn't what women were looking for at all. Women, have their own goals and desires and to try and make my spin on tea being sexy, it was just falling on deaf ears. It's just not what anybody wanted. And so that's when I had to pivot the brand dramatically after about a year because that just wasn't working. It wasn't attracting customers. It wasn't attracting the right customers either, even the ones that we were attracting, to be honest. So we changed our whole strategy to something that's actually more, deeply rooted in my own personal values, and that's supporting the empowerment of women. I come from very humble beginnings. My mom had me at 17 as a single mom. And so, I watched her struggle and raise two girls. And so women's empowerment has just been always something really top of mind for me. And I'd like to think that despite your circumstance or environment, you have an opportunity to really try and overcome any adversities if you really kind of put your heart and desire and goals to it. And so that's where Tease Tea took a huge shift in brand, and we focused on the empowerment of women. And so the names of our teas were more so focused on that. Again, To the Finish Line is a great example we were talking about earlier. That's about reaching your goals, getting to the finish line. And so we changed our position from being a sexy tea company to how are you feeling? What are your goals? We have a tea for that. And so that's been our messaging. And we also added our charity program about 2 years ago, which is basically proceeds from every single order at teasetea.com support the empowerment of women. So from female, let's say, shelters or, non-for-profits to female-run startups, we pick a different organization every month. And so that's actually helped us to drive the great customers, loyal customers, and actually create a tribe and a following to support our message and what we do.
That is awesome. So it all starts with messaging, right? You've got to figure out the message that resonates with a specific market, with a specific subset of the marketplace that is out there. And you've obviously pivoted and done that greatly. When you are attracting them, you now have the message, you have your avatar. What are you doing to get in front of that market? Are you running paid ads? Are you on social media running paid ads? Are you doing SEO? What are the actual tactical things that you're doing to attract people?
Oh my goodness, so many things. Like I feel like we're grinding away, just, really trying to drive home our messaging and our mission. I guess from day one of the big things that's always worked for us is celebrating and talking about what we stand for first, and then diving into the product secondary. And so that's not just from the angle of like female empowerment, but I'm also a huge advocate of tea education and the lifestyle behind tea. And so I would basically do so much media early on because I didn't have money for Facebook advertising. I didn't have money for Google AdWords, none of that. I had to get really creative. And I would basically, put my good internet stalking skills on and go on LinkedIn and find the producers of, local shows. Even local community shows where maybe 5 people watch that show. But then all of a sudden you've got this collateral that you can share with a slightly bigger show and say, this is how I am on air. This is what I talk about. And so it kind of creates this domino effect. And so that's how we got started. I basically was on air on Rogers TV, which is a very small community network here in Ottawa. And I kept those video reels and then I would share them to like the citywide shows. And then, I was going after the provincially wide shows. And then next thing you know, TC's been on national TV here in Canada, about 7 or 8 times now. And that's because we've always defaulted to focusing on the lifestyle of tea first. And then we just happen to make great tea as well.
That is awesome. That is such a guerrilla tactic, but there's a lot of investment, right? I mean, you have to be a tea sommelier and really know your stuff. B, you've got to be passionate about it. It's not just all head knowledge. And C, then you've got to get in stock and hustle and get those producers to give you a shot on air. And so I love it. I love the guerrilla nature. And this should be encouraging.
And people are always like, wow, you're so lucky that you've had all these media appearances. And I just want to laugh at them. I'm like, luck, let me tell you, has nothing to do with it. Nobody is knocking on my door, trust me. And I look at it like, we talk about the conversion rate in e-commerce all the time, right? Like we talk about, the conversion rate at checkout, 2-3%, like that's great, or whatever, it might vary by industry. I literally have my own theory of conversion rate when reaching out to people, like cold calling, cold emails. Like I'll reach out to 100 people, I'm not even joking, and hope to God that maybe 2 to 3 will get back to me.
That's right.
You can't keep up. You just have to keep going after people. And, I've been probably a bit, I guess, going after things almost to a fault sometimes. Like I've gotten myself blacklisted from one show, to be honest, because I've reached out. So sometimes it goes the other way, and I'm still trying to figure out the right balance. But now that our company is in more of like a healthier cash flow state, only in the last, honestly, 6 to 8 months, we've started to really dabble more into, Facebook advertising and things like that, and like more paid marketing.
Right. Well, that's awesome. So we didn't talk about the pop-up shop. Can you tell me about your experience with that and the good, bad, and the ugly? Because a lot of people, Shopify, frankly, promotes doing pop-up shops, and they're very popular across the country to see whether or not a particular market would appeal to your specific product set, and brand messaging.
Definitely. So that was really interesting opportunity, and another example of how I just seem to dive into things without really thinking about them, which can work out, but it can also, you can fall flat on your face sometimes and just have to be prepared for that. So I maintained a relationship with a contact, and this contact reached out to me in, when was it? August 2015 and was like, hey, you know, I'm part of this team that's opening up this beautiful market in the meatpacking district called the Gainsborough Market. And we have, you know, some of New York City's best, but we're also bringing in some like international people as well. And so we want to have like an exceptional pizza guy and gelato guy and, you know, flower girl and what have you been. And we've been following you on social media. We love your messaging. We love what you do. We want you to be the exclusive, you know, tea girls of this market. And so you can do a pop-up here basically, and this is what it would cost. And they kind of laid it all out. And it's funny, he basically said, like, it seemed like a opportunity to at least consider. It seemed a bit outlandish for a small Canadian tea company who still at this point hadn't had a lot of sales yet to just dive into, you know, an American market and just like open up a pop-up. So I had two choices. I could either say yes or no. And I just said yes. And the crazy thing about it, JD, is that I had 6 weeks to actually open once I said yes.
Oh my.
Because they were on a tight deadline to actually open this place. So I not only had to say yes, I had to say yes and move in 6 weeks and be open. And so I kind of looked at that, one of my favorite quotes from Richard Branson, which is basically, if they say somebody, like if somebody offers you an incredible opportunity, say yes and figure out later how to do it. And so that's basically what had happened. I didn't have the money to open this pop-up for the operating costs or the starting costs. So I launched a crowdfunding campaign and on Kickstarter, which you're aware of. And thank you and Amy for supporting that. It means so much. And I think you're still supporting it to this day because you're still subscribed to our tea.
Yeah, we are.
You must have so much tea you don't even know what to do with it at this point.
Yeah, we do have a lot of tea. We share it with our friends.
Yeah, exactly. It makes easy gifts, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we launched this Kickstarter campaign with an aggressive goal of $23,000 in 30 days. And oh my gosh, I've never worked harder in my life to actually talk about that like law of conversion that I have, that theory. I've never texted, LinkedIn, emailed, called, you know, Slacked, like literally everybody and their dog to say, this is what I'm doing. We're a small tea company. Help us get to the big city. And the main reason why I wanted to do this is because by New York City standards, it was actually quite a reasonable deal for rent, to be honest. That was, first of all, pretty awesome. But the second thing is that it was very low risk in the sense that if we can actually afford to open, we weren't going to be forced into any crazy like 10-year lease or 5-year lease or anything like that. It was basically a yearly lease with, you know, the opportunity to kind of break it if necessary under certain conditions or what have you. But so it seemed low risk, but most importantly, it was in a high traffic tourist destination. And that was really the most attractive to me because one of Tease Tea's primary goals is to become the best online tea company for women around the world. And if there's anywhere that you can actually get in front of people, it's in New York City in a high tourist area. So, you know, our whole strategy was, you know, let's not be concerned about making a profit here because we probably won't. You have to sell a heck of a lot of tea to break a profit, even in our location at a reasonable cost. And we only had like 80 square feet, so not a lot of room to begin with. But let's just focus on creating an exceptional experience for every single customer. And if they like our tea, they know that when they go back home, whether it's Germany, Australia, Dubai, they can simply order it from teasetea.com and have it shipped to their doorstep.
Wonderful. So what were the results?
So definitely did not turn a profit. So that's really important to know. In fact, oh gosh, because we did 2 pop-ups in 2 years in New York City. So 2 separate locations, basically. The first one kind of got us at a break even and maybe like minimal losses during most months. But the customer acquisition was huge for us. And, you know, we were collecting data on our website, like, how did you hear about us? And we had an exponential amount of new customers saying like, oh, you know, I stopped by the Gainsborough Market and loved my tea. So that was great. So I kind of chalked that up to a marketing expense at the end of the day, even though we didn't, you know, turn a profit. The second pop-up, however, we did like we did not anticipate just how bad it was going to be at that location, and perhaps didn't do enough research or due diligence on our end. But there were points where we were running out of money and I was using my Shopify paycheck to cover expenses. Because like I still have yet to take a paycheck from my own company from Tease Tea. We're a team of 3 now. And, you know, my focus has been, you know, I'm very grateful that I get to wake up every day to a job that is supportive of what I do. So my part in Tease Tea is basically investing in other people in terms of like from a compensation standpoint. So yeah, when that market was failing and I still had people to pay, I was using my own paycheck at Shopify to pay for that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So looking back, and we'll get off of acquisition here in a little bit, but looking back, do you, knowing what you know today, would you do it all again? Would you do the pop-ups again, knowing what you know today? Or would you just pick the first one and nix the second one?
Good question. My fiance would hate me for saying this, but I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Like it is crazy how much stress that pop-up put in my life because, you know, I was flying to New York every few weeks to check on things. You know, I don't live in New York. So there was that time, there's the cost associated with that. There would be these things like, you know, I would get these emails from the people running the store for me, like my employees being like, hey, just so you know, Christmas is in a couple weeks. Like, let's talk about a budget to like dress up the windows for Christmas and get festive. And I'm like, I don't have the mental bandwidth to think about Christmas decorations right now. That I'm not interested in that part of this,
right.
You know? So like all these things, like bricks and mortar challenges that you think of, well, French press breaks or the Samovar for the hot water breaks. And like, you're constantly fixing equipment and paying to fix equipment all the time. And then, you know, like just even dealing with, working with employees who obviously naturally things happen, they're going to be sick, but then I didn't have adequate backup plans to replace them. And the type of uncalculated stress that I kind of brought on myself was absolutely crazy. And because obviously the challenges of having a bricks and mortar versus an online store are very, very different. But I would still do it all over again in a second.
You know what I love is you're a true entrepreneur. Because I'm just sitting over here listening to you, chuckling to myself because it's the nature of an entrepreneur, a risk taker, to go, it sucked. It was so bad at times. I don't care. Just decorate the dang window, right? I mean, just make it look good. I really don't care. That's why I hired you. Make a decision, exactly. You know, and all of this financial stress and, you know, time and energy and all of that. And you're just like, I would do it all again.
I know, it's crazy. And you have to be a little bit insane in all the right ways to be an entrepreneur. And I really kind of credit my hospitality background because that industry really gave me the backbone to roll with the punches, right? Like there's very few other industries where literally you're subjecting yourself in front of strangers every single day on the job and bending over backwards to make them happy, all with a smile, right? And creating an incredible experience within that first interaction. No pressure. So I feel like that really kind of helped give me the backbone to be, you know, to drive myself as an entrepreneur to date for sure, and the work ethic.
That's very cool. So once you've attracted somebody and you do it through just flat out hustle, reaching out on radio and television and doing all of that and making sure that you really know your stuff, obviously you have a great product, and I think that will come into play in the retention piece, because people just won't come back and buy if they have a bad experience or if your tea just really isn't that good at all, no matter how connected they are to your brand message. But converting somebody, once they get to your site, talk to me, give me some tools, give me your philosophy behind a subscription model versus a one-off sale. Talk to me about the way that you think about conversions and what you have seen work on Tease Tea, and maybe bring in some of your experiences from working with other merchants like us that you've actually been able to adopt and implement in your store, which I know happens all the time. You're like looking for the best practices, you know, and being like, will this apply?
Definitely. Yeah, well, to go on the subscription model, like it's actually a smaller part of what we do right now that we're really trying to get better at. It's been successful for us, but it doesn't make up for the bulk of our revenue right now.
What percentage? What percentage is subscriptions for you?
Honestly, about 15%.
Okay.
Of our website sales are subscription, and it's been great. Like it's steadily increasing, but it's interesting because I feel like because we've been we launched on Amazon in June, and that kind of, I can go into that later. That's created a bit of a beast and burden for us in a good way and a bad way. And so we've been just trying to like not drown in keeping up with our Amazon side of the business, that I have not been giving the attention for the subscription to continue to thrive and grow to the next level. But in terms of what we do for like repeat customers on the website and even on Amazon, because we've seen it, we do things that actually, I like, and I think again, this kind of goes back to my hospitality background, is creating that perfect first experience is so important to me. And that has actually been really important to our customers, and they notice it, and they tell us this. And so we've done that in many different ways, creating that first experience. You brought up like things that I've suggested to Shopify merchants that I've kind of leveraged on my own. Kit is an incredible app. Are you familiar with Kit?
I am. I've looked at it several times. I haven't used it personally in our business, but I am familiar with it. Tell me what you love about it.
I use Kit on such a basic level, and I probably really underutilize the full power of it, but I use it for one primary core thing. Kit basically sends every single customer that buys from our website a thank you email from me. And it doesn't look like some MailChimp or Klaviyo thing where an unsubscribe button at the bottom or whatever. It literally looks like an email from me. It's as white glove as it gets. There's nothing frilly or fancy. It looks like it could have been sent from my iPhone,
Nice.
after dinner,
Nice.
and it basically is a thank you on behalf of the, myself, like the CEO of the company. And it basically says, it's personalized to their first name, of course. And it'll say, "Hi, JD, thank you so much for your first time purchase. As a small business, your trust in my store really means so much. If you have any feedback, let me know. Happy sipping, Sheena." And then it also recognizes a repeat customer the second time. And it'll say, "Hi, JD, thank you so much for your second purchase in our store. Your loyalty means so much to us." It's just very personal. And I swear I would never hear from my customers if I didn't have that out. I've actually had people reply back to that email. And again, it just looks like it goes straight to me, Sheena@teasetea.com. And my customers will say, "Wow, thank you so much for taking the time to personally reach out. I just want to let you know I'm obsessed with this tea, and this is why, or this is how I found you, or your mission to empower women means so much to me," because I've literally had women say that they've come from, unfortunately, battered circumstances and like previous relationships and stuff like that. So the fact that they are supporting a business that is empowering women in those situations really strikes a personal chord with them. And I get the most personal messages back from my customers, and that's huge. And so, like, talk about the perfect first experience. They haven't even gotten our product yet at this point.
Right. That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So are you using videos on your site, and have you seen an impact of anything specifically to, if you were to get into the conversion specifics, what does your site convert at as a percentage? And have you seen different things work better than others, like video or promotions? Get a little granular with me.
Yeah, for sure. We have pretty reasonable, we have a pretty high repeat customer rate. It sits at around 40%.
Nice.
And so we're working, obviously, to continue to improve that. Our conversions rate tend to bounce between 4 to 5%, which is pretty good, which we're pretty happy about, especially it used to be a bit higher, but we've kind of diluted that conversion because now we're using Facebook ads and we're driving all this new traffic that didn't exist before. So, it's kind of diluted that a little bit. But yeah, so video is a lot of our products on the website actually have testimonials from customers drinking our tea. So, we try not to focus on what we think about it and why we think it's so great. We just want our customers to tell you. So I really try to go out of my way to do influencer marketing on a personal level through the website. So I'll ask, customers, I'll reach out to them directly personally and just say, "Hey, do you have time to take a 30-second video of what you thought of our bury me in kisses blender to the finish line or what have you. And I'll try and entice them with a gift card. And I know that that's meaningful to them because they're already repeat buyers.
Right.
And so they'll give me this video and then I'll put it in the product description. And so now people have an opportunity to see like what other people think about it. So it's not just reviews, general reviews. It's like an actual human. It's a face. You're putting a connection to the product and its perceived quality and value. And again, like I think that goes to, trying to create the best experience possible from like that first impression and trying to humanize the experience. I think that's really the most important thing because that's like our biggest roadblock as, e-commerce owners is how do you create a personal connection with your customers online? It's really hard. And so I think that, Kit thank you email is a great example of personalizing the experience from the moment they make a purchase. And then also putting those videos embedded into the actual product description also humanizes the browsing and shopping experience.
Absolutely. So I am on one of your products right now. It is the tongue-tied,
Yeah.
which is so genius. And you have a little GIF down there that is that, I'm so bad with my Disney princess characters. Is that Cinderella or who is that?
I think that's Snow White.
Snow White, okay. And that's genius. I literally can't even. So
She's speechless. She's tongue-tied.
she is tongue-tied, yeah. And so I think that's awesome. That
So we don't, thank you. And we don't put videos like with every single one. And in fact, like that's a very new initiative that we're trying to do. Like we only have maybe about 30% that actually have videos, but then we try to compensate for the ones that don't have videos yet with GIFs that kind of make you smile and chuckle a bit. So it's called Tongue-Tied, for your listeners, THAI apostrophe D, because it's made with Thai lemongrass. So it's a play on words. And then you have this Snow White GIF who's like running away from the Disney forest. Like I'm so speechless. I literally can't even. And it's just like a meme and a GIF. And, it's like people identify with those today. And so if you identify with that on a personal level, then that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to do more of that. I think it's brilliant. And your product photos, do you do those in-house or do you outsource those? Because I don't know very much about tea, but they're beautiful. I mean, it shows the uniqueness of every single blend, every flavor.
Thank you. That's like actually one of my favorite hacks because I'm not a photographer. I don't even have a nice camera. But what I do is I put those, I'll take my tea blends and I'll lay them out on a white background and I'll position them in a way so that you can see some of the key ingredients at first glance. And then I use this app called, not this app, but this service called Pixels, Pixelz. And if you go to pixels.com, you can upload any photo. And I'm not even kidding, for I think it's like $2 a photo. They have a professional turn your iPhone photo into a gorgeous product ready photo. And they'll, Photoshop in like a little shadow on the white background. They'll brighten the resolution a little bit, or I'm not really sure what they do. They're wizards in my opinion. But if I showed you these before and afters of what the photo looks like when I take it, to the time I upload it to them, and for $2 and in 24-hour turnaround time, I get a beautiful product photo. It's a great hack. And I didn't have to hire a photographer for those photos.
That is amazing. I'm going to be using that very soon.
Right.
I'm going to be using that. So do you have FOMO? Is that what's running? Or do you have a different,
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about FOMO for those of you who don't know what that is out there listening.
So I have FOMO and it's so funny again, like this is how my position at Shopify really keeps my ears tuned into like trying all these different things. But it's actually Dylan at BV Excel, who's a Shopify Plus partner. He basically, said to me, this is a very easy app that you can install. It's like, minimal effort, but you can create such a maximum impact with that app. And basically what happens is you install this app from the Shopify App Store, and it in the bottom left corner, or right, whatever you prefer, it shows every time somebody's made a purchase.
Yeah.
And then it like recycles them if it's not a particularly busy day. But what it does is it creates an urgency to buy. It messes with in a positive way, the psychological buying behavior of the prospective customer. They see this urgency. It's like people want what other people are having, right? And so they're
Absolutely.
like, oh, wow. So that person's getting that. I want to get that too. And oh, wow, this one keeps popping up like crazy as a popular seller. Definitely going to add that to my cart. And so, yeah, I've literally had people say to me that seeing that FOMO app come up has actually helped, push them to like making that conversion.
Nice. Yeah, we all want social proof, even though we all admit that, or we think that we don't want to do what everybody else does. It totally hooks us. It's a psychological hack. You also have Wheelio
Yes.
installed. Did you have a way to capture opt-in email addresses before you installed Wheelio? And if you did, can you tell me the difference in your conversions? Have you seen it improve or?
Yeah, so I used to have a standard pop-up box to enter your email back in the day, so like 2 years ago, and then I just started to experiment with not using them. It's a personal choice for like every business owner, but I try to put myself in the position of the consumer, and I personally just don't like them when I go to other stores online. Like they get in my way, they're distracting, and it's funny. It's actually driven me to sometimes like leave the store on certain occasions, like especially if I'm just browsing and I'm not fully committed to a sale. If I'm totally committed to the sale, then having a discount code pop up is, icing on the cake. That's great. But if I'm not, it's just annoying. So I had nothing for the longest time. I had like a basic like subscribe option at the bottom. I think it's still there in our footer that you can join our email list. But then I saw Wheelio. And again, like I'm trying to think about how can I make a really cool first impression for a customer. And, when I saw Wheelio, I was like, this is it. This gamifies that experience with minimal effort. And so what Wheelio does is, again, you install it onto your store. It doesn't take a lot of effort. And you can customize. It's like a spin and win concept. So you can customize what your customer is going to win. So they enter their email address, and in return, they get something, right? They get something right away. They don't get like, updates on their latest products. They get an opportunity to like roll the dice and see what happens. And, we all have that curiosity, right? So why not? Let's see what we get. So our options are everything from like free shipping to 5% up to, I think, 20% off, and then some free products or different variations. And you can actually set as the owner, like what percentage of things you want people to land on. So, which is great too. So you don't have to worry about like, those high value items like making you bankrupt or whatever, because somebody, people just happen to keep stumbling on that.
Right.
So there's that. And so that actually helped to that, like in the first 3 weeks alone, and again, like I'm a smaller business probably in comparison to like yours and other people who are on Shopify Plus specifically, but it gave me 400 new email addresses within the first 2 weeks. And that was just incredible for me.
Wow, that's awesome. What I love about setting it up is, and we had it on our site for a little while and we took it off because we're doing some different promotions and things, and I didn't want to confuse people. But what I love about it, it's almost like being the owner of a casino, and you get to set the rules for the roulette wheel, and it's like, it's like it gives you this control, but it also is neat because for the consumer, it's a game of chance. That gamification, which we all know is huge and only going to get bigger. I'm about out of time to talk about conversions, but I have never seen the little, how did you hear about us, the little Lucky Orange app. I've never seen that ever. Talk to me about the feedback that you get from this, how long you've had it running, what your experience is, positive, possibly negative.
Yeah, so I've had that running for a year and a half. And that's an app called Lucky Orange, like you mentioned. And again, like Kit, like I probably underutilize this app. Like this app is so cool, JD. Like it actually can give you heat maps of your customers, and it records like where their mouse is scrolling over, where their eyes are possibly looking, at what point they're dropping off a page, how long they're spending on a page before they give up. It's a really cool app, and all these recordings are available for me in the database, and I honestly rarely look at them. I really need to dedicate the time, but I use it for the most simple feature, and that's that poll. And what I do with that poll is I think it says, how'd you hear about us? And the options are friends, TV segment, other, and then I think there's like the pop-up in NYC.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which I should probably update that because we actually closed our second pop-up in February. So thank you for pointing that out. It's like the never-ending laundry list of an entrepreneur, right?
I know.
So I installed that app about a year and a half ago. And again, that was important for me because I didn't have the budget at that time to pay for advertising. So if I was successfully capturing new customers and repeat customers, I want to know where the heck they were coming from. And so that was a good way to do that without spending a lot of money. And our biggest one usually is, believe it or not, it's the segments on TV.
Wow.
And that's because, we don't just use those TV segments as like a flash in the pan, even if only like, it has a small viewership if it happens to be a local one. We take those videos and we embed them on our website. We embed them on our blogs. We embed them in our newsletters. We upload them to YouTube. And it's just like easy content to spread across multiple platforms from like Twitter to Facebook and everything around the lifestyle content of tea. And that lifestyle content has like really been a huge driving factor of why people are curious about us.
That's amazing. How, as a percentage of traffic, how many people actually will select one of the poll radio buttons? I mean, do you have any rough, I know you probably could get into the dashboard.
I can actually put, I think I actually have stats on that. I could try and pull it up super quick, but it'll say how many times people basically dismiss that altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let me pull it up for you. I'm in my Shopify admin right now. Let's take one moment.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious about that because I would bet that if you got 10% of your traffic of visitors, uniques to engage in that in some fashion, that would be just wonderful. And so I'll be anxious to see if it's even that high.
Yeah, no, I'll take a look. See that little doorbell you just heard it tells me that somebody's also looking at my store at the same time, which is great. And it shows all your visitors at the same time, what country they're from, how many times they visited your page. Like it shows you so much. Now, I will say a disclaimer about the poll is for a while with this specific theme that I'm using, it's called Parallax. I used a cart slide feature that I kind of toggled on. And so what that means is that when somebody would add something to their cart, a little pop-out slider of their cart would show and they could hit checkout right away. Now, when that happened, it would bypass this poll altogether, which I completely didn't even realize for some time until about a month ago. So this poll wasn't capturing data for a couple months as a result of that slide cart feature that we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking a look. But so currently it's like showing our stats for the last 30 days. And so it's had 3,000 views and 1,000 responses. So that's pretty good. So it means 1/3 of people who are looking at this are actually taking the time to answer it.
That's amazing. 1/3.
Yeah,
wow.
that's pretty high,
That's
actually.
great. So do you have the ability to turn it off and fire it on a specific page,
Yes,
like
you
on the
can-
thank you page, or does it have to be?
Yeah, so you can embed it on any page you want.
Nice.
And so I chose the cart page because my thought process at the time was, well, everybody lands on the cart page at some point. That's before I had like the option to do the sliding cart to automatically go to checkout.
Nice. Well, this has been so awesome. I love your story. I love your heart. Your fiance, is he helping you in the business now? Is that right?
Yeah. So that's actually, I guess, a quick story on that. Basically, back in June, my partner, like my spouse, my fiance, whatever you want to call him, he had the idea to put us on Amazon. And I said, you know what, I don't even have the bandwidth to think about Christmas decorations for the pop-up or whatever, right? So it's like, I can't even think about Amazon. This is a whole other beast for me that I don't understand, totally uncharted territory. And he's like, well, let me just experiment with 2 SKUs out of your 30, what could go wrong? Our 2 best sellers. So I said, okay. So he did that, JD, and it's actually crazy. Maybe that's a whole other separate conversation, but currently Amazon makes up for 80% of Tease Tea's overall revenue.
Wow.
Yeah. But there's and so since then he's quit his job. He quit his job last summer because we came to this breaking point again, this crossroads. It's this business is thriving. I need to hire people just to keep up. I feel guilty that I have this, full-time job that I love, but at the same time, I can't give my business all the attention it deserves because, it's just exploding right now. And it's a lot. I'm putting in, 15-hour days, back in the hospitality days. So my fiance was like, well, you know what? I'm going to quit my job.
Wow.
And I was just kind of shocked for a minute. And I said, but why? Like he's actually a civil engineer for the National Research Council here in Ottawa. That's kind of was his gig time, and really worked hard in his career to get where he was. And he's like, you know what? I like my job. I don't love it, but I like it. And he said, at the end of the day, if like, forgive my French, but if shit hits the fan, I'm still a civil engineer and I can go back and get another job in that field, or try to. He said, you love your job. It benefits your world with Tease Tea in so many profound ways. And you get so much fulfillment out of helping other entrepreneurs, which is, a big part of your own personal life mission. Like, let me just do this. And so, yeah, as of last summer, he's been with our company full time. And that's just really been so helpful because I know he has our company's best interest. Right?
Absolutely.
So it helps me sleep better at night.
That's awesome. Sure. So if you didn't know that he was your guy, he was the man for you.
I don't know what I knew. The guy was willing to quit his job as like a civil engineer to like pack tea for a living, and take a huge pay cut in the process. Like, I don't really know if there's any other defining way to like find a keeper.
That's right. That's so good. Well, I think the last part in attract, convert, and retain really has already been answered, Sheena. I would like to give my perspective on your business and as it pertains to how you have been successful in retaining 40% of your customers, which is amazing.
Thank
the
you.
Stat that you showed earlier. It's basically you really know tea. You interject personality. You make it easy for people to purchase, and you are connecting with them at a much deeper level around this women's empowerment and raising yourself up from the ashes, as it were. No matter what circumstance you come from, you can do it. Encouraging people to be more than what maybe their circumstances are showing them that they are, and so it's just a very natural extension of you doing a great job in creating a really great brand that I believe has a great chance of being the largest, the best worldwide tea company online. And so I just want to congratulate you. I mean, it's just so awesome.
Thank you so much, JD. You've got me blushing over here. It really means so much. And I think you would agree with this. Like, as entrepreneurs, like, don't we always forget to like sit back and reflect on our successes, even the small wins, right? And
yes.
It's, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And we don't really kind of get those words enough from, as entrepreneurs owning our own business, because we're so in the trenches. We're like in the trenches every day, but our heads are in the clouds at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it can be such a tough journey. So I really do appreciate those kind words. They mean so much, because trust me, like I don't hear them enough. I'm kind of in my own little world. And somebody reminded me, it's like we opened our office, like our very first office in March, and someone said, go celebrate that. And I said, well, why? Like, we really just needed a place because we outgrew our basement. That's a whole other thing. And they're like, no, an office is a big deal. He's like, if you're not celebrating these milestones, what the hell are you even doing operating a business? What's the point?
Right. Yeah.
Well, this concept of delayed gratification, I think that you have embraced wholly. The fact that you're still working at Shopify speaks to the fact that you're a lifelong learner and that you love helping people. One thing that I love that you shared with me that I hope is okay to share is that you've kind of become known for being able to diffuse really unhappy merchants, and that when Shopify released some changes out into the wild, that you actually got called on multiple occasions because you had become known for this to deal with irate customers, and so you had what did you tell me, 70 some conversations with people who were pretty ticked off? Yeah,
about 70 conversations, and I basically have a reputation. The nice way of putting it is being called the merchant whisperer, but really my team calls me like, if shit hits the fan, talk to Sheena.
Exactly, Sheena, help. So obviously you've been gifted in what you do there, and you're taking the long approach. You are taking the long approach to Tease Tea, and there's going to be a very natural, I don't know that I'm prophetic in this, but it just feels like there's going to be a very natural
time in the future where the demands and also the rewards from Tease Tea and the effort and the energy and the team that you've built will get to the point where it just is a natural transition for you to go to Tease Tea. And I know that will be an exciting but probably hard decision to make at that time as well. But yeah, I wish we could talk for another hour.
I could talk shop all day.
I know.
I really appreciate the opportunity. It's really been such a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sheena. And for anybody out there who hasn't tried Tease Tea, I would just encourage you to check out Sheena's website. It's teasetea.com, and she'll take great care of you, her and her team, and you'll make sure and get an extra little, what do you call it, the little thing that you put the tea in?
Tea infuser.
The tea infuser. Be sure to get an extra couple of those, because Amy and I are always fighting over, the best infuser, and go ahead and spend a little bit of extra money and get a nicer one. And you'll enjoy your tea so much more. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Sheena?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Our infusers are great. Really gives an opportunity to let the leaves expand and grow and release their flavors.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, again, thank you, Sheena, for being on our show, E-commerce in the Trenches. This is JD Krause. And until next time, go out there and kill it in your store. And if you haven't started one, go to Shopify and open up a new store and focus on attracting, converting, and retaining your customers, building a great brand, injecting great story. And we wish you the very best, Sheena. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, JD. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to E-commerce in the Trenches, brought to you by Unific. Visit unific.com to start turning your receipts into revenue through highly segmented order confirmation campaigns and more.